Hey guys, it's Miss Tremblay here. So today I'm going to show you guys how to do a Zen Doodle. Zen Doodles are really popular right now for like adult coloring books, but they're also really fun to make on your own. Some of my students did these last year, and I personally really enjoy making them. And it's something that you can do with things that you just have around the house. So to do your Zen Doodle, you're going to need a photo, and if you don't have a printer, you could definitely just use your phone or an iPad or something that has a screen. I've got a piece of drawing paper here, but you could easily just use a piece of printer paper. Just make sure it's not lined paper. It's going to be really hard to see what you draw. And I have drawing pencils. So if you have a set of drawing pencils, you could definitely use those, but if all you have is just your regular yellow pencil laying around, you can certainly use that. And then you're going to need a pen as well to go over your pencil so that you have nice dark lines. And I have a set of microns and pens that are very similar to a micron, so you can see right there, that's actually the brand name. If all you have is a ballpoint pen in black ink, that'll work too. But if you have the microns, they definitely make a nicer line, or even like a thin Sharpie, or like a gel pen that is black. So for your photo, you can use whatever you want, but I think landscapes are a little easier because if you make mistakes when you're drawing them, it's not as obvious, and I just enjoy drawing them more. But definitely up to you. And then I have a piece of drawing paper that's a little bigger than my photo, so I'm going to have to make everything a little bigger on my piece of drawing paper. So if you struggle with that, if you struggle making things bigger or smaller, then try and get a piece of paper and cut it down to the same size as your photo, because that'll be easier. And you can see I chose a landscape-ish drawing for mine. Anything like a portrait of a person is going to be a lot more challenging, and often buildings can be really challenging too. So keep that in mind when you're trying to choose your photo. And then if you have drawing pencils, I like to use something like a 2B. So the B and the H just mean how hard the graphite is. So if you have an H pencil, it has really hard graphite, so it'll make a really light mark. But if you tend to use a lot of pressure, you can cut all the way through your paper with a pencil, but you'll leave marks, and if you go to erase, you'll kind of have like a divot in your paper. So if you know you like to press down really hard, then try to use a softer pencil. And I kind of press down hard, so I tend to use a softer pencil. So the B is a softer pencil, and it's going to make a darker mark because more of the graphite comes off on the paper. And then if you have microns, I like to have a variety of sizes, and they all have numbers on them, but obviously you can just open it up and see how big the tip is. So usually the smaller number is a smaller size. Sometimes they're marked on the bottom. This one isn't. But the smaller number is on the side, and the top doesn't match the side. So keep that in mind too. I've obviously mixed all of my microns up. But I'll probably use a couple different sizes. So what I'm going to do first is I am going to lay everything out in pencil really lightly. So when I'm laying this out, I kind of measure, and I will use my fingers, and I will say, this really obvious line right here is almost halfway up my page, but not quite. So I guess I do a little bit of guesstimating when I'm doing these, but I'll use my hands and sort of give myself a proportion of, oh, this is 1/5 of the way up. So what's 1/5 of my other paper? So you'll see me going back and forth when I'm doing these measurements. Sometimes I kind of eyeball things if it's not hugely important that it be the right size. And you can definitely use whatever method works for you when you're laying this out. And that's why I said pick a landscape, because you've got a lot more space for error, space for things not to be in quite the right position, and because it's a landscape, nobody will know that you've made adjustments. All right. And I also have an eraser handy. As you can see, I made a mistake when I was laying this out already, which is totally fine. That is what erasers are for. If you need to use a ruler, so if you needed a ruler to keep that edge straight, then definitely grab a ruler, or even just the edge of like a piece of paper or the edge of a book if you don't have a ruler at home, and that'll work just fine as long as it's straight. I'm not going to bother drawing all of the bricks in, because with the Zen Doodle, you don't have to put down detail. You really just want to get your basic shapes down, because you really want to create a textured surface with just a lot of fun, different textures that you're creating and inventing on your own. So you want to leave empty space to go and fill in those different textures. So I don't want to do a ton of detail. I definitely don't want to go in and do all the little lines of my rocks or all of my shadows. I just want there to be enough here that I can go in and do the actual Zen Doodle part. Okay, so once you have your drawing and you feel pretty happy with it, again, you don't need a ton of detail. Most of the scribbling that I've done is just areas that I'm trying to let myself know that those areas are going to be black, so I'm going to go over those with the micron. And I want to go in and make sure I have really clean lines everywhere, because again, I'm actually going to go through all of this now with my micron, and I'm going to outline everything. So I'm using an 05, and again, you can just use a ballpoint pen if that's what you have. But I just want to go through and I want to outline everything, and then I'm going to see if I can find a fairly large micron, if I've got one, to fill in all of my black spaces. So I feel like I am finished here. I'm looking over this and I'm not seeing any other parts that look like they need some work, although I will usually glance over and just see if any parts maybe need some adjustments. So looking over this, it does look pretty busy and pretty full, and this is what a Zen Doodle is going to look like. Once you're finished with this, you can either leave it as it is, or you could photocopy it. If you wanted multiple copies, you can color on this. So Zen Doodles often are used as coloring pages. And if you finish yours and you have a nice version of it, then definitely either scan it in or take a good quality photo and upload it to the Google Classroom and the Facebook page under this video. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to try to put Zen Doodles together and make a coloring book if we get enough of them. I think that would be pretty cool. So definitely make sure that before you color it with any like crayons or colored pencils, that you take a good picture or scan it in if you happen to have a scanner. So that's it. Obviously, if you have any questions, you can shoot me an email or you can respond to this video and I will try to answer your questions as quickly as I can.